Hi, my name is Cheryl Wilson. I am the founder of Fitnotic, and I specialize in core strengthening and diastasis recti. There is a lot of conflicting information out there on diastasis recti. When I was pregnant with my two kids, I knew very little about diastasis recti, and what I had been told either was not true, like being told your diastasis is not a big deal, don't worry about it during pregnancy, it's going to close naturally after the kids are born. Wish that were true, but it's not. So it was either not true or it was helpful, the information I was told, but it wasn't helpful enough. To make a very long story short, I was left with a hernia that needed to be surgically repaired, a pelvic fracture, and a stomach that was literally unrecognizable to me. Now, since then, I have learned everything I could possibly learn about proper core strengthening and what happens to our core as a result of pregnancy. And now I can honestly say that my core is stronger than it's ever been. And when my core is engaged, it looks better than it did even before I had kids. So what I want to do in this video is share with you the information that I wish I had years ago. So we're going to do this in 5 parts. The first part of this video is going to be about who's going to benefit from the video. Next, we will go over what diastasis recti is and how you can, right now at home, test yourself to see if you have any abdominal separation. Next, we'll go over how to properly engage your core. This is super, super important and will be really, really helpful going forward. Next, we'll go over what you need to stop doing to make any abdominal separation stop getting worse, and whatever weakened core you have, if you stop doing these things, you'll prevent any further weakening. And then finally, I'll teach you the exercises that you need to start doing right away to start improving your core strength and start improving a diastasis. Part 1. Who is going to benefit from this video? You will benefit from this video if you're a mom, if you're a grandmother, if you're pregnant, if you have any intention of possibly becoming pregnant in the future, if you feel like your core could be stronger, even if you're not a mom or plan on being a mom, if you experience back pain, if you do workouts or even just go about everyday life and don't feel comfortable or strong. Basically, anybody who could stand to strengthen their core, strengthen the support for the rest of their body. You will benefit from this video. Part 2. What is diastasis recti and how could you tell if you have it? Diastasis recti refers to the separation of the six-pack muscles, the rectus abdominis muscles that run vertically down your abdomen. They are connected by a line of connective tissue, the linea alba. When there is intra-abdominal pressure pushing forward on your abdominal wall, that connective tissue starts to stretch laterally. So diastasis recti isn't a tear in the muscle. Nothing has happened to your muscle. It's the connective tissue that was designed to stretch that has stretched. And because of that stretching, the recti muscles that maybe were nice and close together before are now spread apart. That separation, that gap between the muscles, that's what we're talking about when we speak about diastasis recti. Now, does this only happen to pregnant women? 100% no. If you look at the cover of a bodybuilding magazine, sometimes you'll see really defined men with these six-pack muscles with like a diamond-shaped opening right between them. That's a diastasis. So yes, men can get a diastasis too, whether it's intra-abdominal pressure from an expanding uterus or from an expanding stomach. Whatever it is that's causing the stomach to push forward and put pressure on that abdominal wall, it's going to result in abdominal separation. That is a diastasis. Now, how do you know if you have a separation? If you're pregnant or even as a mom, sometimes if you lean back, you may have noticed instead of there being an evenly rounded shaped belly, it's kind of like smooth, bump, smooth, almost like a bulge coming forward right at the midline. For me, I remember describing it to my OB during my first pregnancy as, what's going on here? It looks like the baby's body. It looks like an alien, like standing up in my belly when I leaned back to get onto the treatment table for my exam. That's how I knew that I had it. It wasn't just a smooth, rounded appearance of a belly anymore. There was a protrusion coming from the center. Now, that's one way to know you have it. The more clinical way to know if you have it is to test yourself for it. So you're going to get into a back laying position, and you're going to see I go down on my side to get to back laying, which we're going to go over in a second. Once you're in a back laying position, you can take 2 fingers and you're going to press right into the belly button area, above the belly button area, and below the belly button area. While you're pressing into each of those 3 spots, you're going to lift your head and shoulders slightly up off the floor. You are feeling for any separation between the muscles. Now, I've seen some videos where women are testing for it by poking in this way. More accurate way is have your fingers pointing down. You want to feel the width. So if you're just poking in, that's not going to be as helpful. Whether it's 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 4 fingers. I've had clients up to 8.5 fingers could fit between their separated muscles. So start with 2, but make sure you're pressing in flat, not poking yourself into the belly button. All right, let's get into a back laying position. Again, I'm going to get down on my side. I'll encourage you to do the same, and I'll explain why in a minute. And extend your legs straight out, arms straight out, and just relax your stomach. Take those fingers, press them right into the belly button area. Keep the stomach relaxed, everything relaxed. Lift your head and shoulders the slightest bit and put it back down. Do it a couple times to get the feel of how your muscles are working. Feel if there is any gap between those 6-pack muscles that are running up and down your stomach. Do it a little bit below the belly button as well. And do it above the belly button too. If you feel a gap, a space, like a valley between those muscles, that's the separation. That's what you're feeling. Now to get up from here, again, I'll go over this in a second. Keep the core engaged, go to your side, and push yourself up. So if you felt a gap between those muscles, you felt a space, you were able to kind of sink in, that's a diastasis. It doesn't only matter if you fit 2 fingers or 3 fingers or 1 finger. It also matters how deep you were able to kind of sink the fingers in there. I know for some people it's kind of gross, but you kind of have to evaluate, is it shallow? Is it pretty hard? Or is the connective tissue really worn out pretty thin? Has it really stretched and you're really able to sink down in there? I know some people feel the intestines, you could feel some pulsating. You could kind of get really deep in there. So that's how you kind of gauge how severe is your separation. Are you really deep in there? And how many fingers are between the muscles? All of that said, why does this matter? It matters because the more significant a separation you have, the more careful you need to be with what you're doing and what you're not doing to prevent it from getting worse and keep your body safe and strong as you age. Now, everything going forward in this video, it doesn't matter if you feel much of a separation or not. If you feel like, I'm not even sure if I have it, but my core feels weak and I'm trying to do this bar class and something doesn't feel right here, or I'm not comfortable doing burpees anymore or push-ups or planks, or you're like, yeah, man, I could really fit a lot of fingers in there. Either way, it's imperative that you take this advice that I'm going to give you. You stop doing the things that I recommend you stop doing, and you start doing the exercises and incorporating the techniques that I'm about to teach you. And that's because proper core strengthening is imperative regardless of how much of a diastasis you have. The purpose of this video is to teach you how to properly engage your core. When you do that, you are taking whatever gap you have between the muscles and you're closing it. So whether you have an 8-finger separation or a 2-finger separation, when you properly engage your core, that separation is gone. Because when you contract to engage the core, You are taking those recti muscles and you are closing them. And that is why it is super important to know if you have a separation, but whether you have one or not, or it's big or it's not, it's still equally important to work on proper core strengthening. Part 3, how to properly engage your core. Properly engaging your core is a combination of a few different techniques. First, I want you to think about your stomach in 3 separate parts. First, we've got the upper abdominals, the rib cage. Second, we've got the area right over your belly button. And third, we have the area underneath the belly button. I want you to think about drawing your stomach up and in all 3 areas. So ribs pull in towards each other and back. Belly button area pulls up and in, and lower abdomen pulls up and in. So your entire torso is drawn up and in. Now notice my shoulders. I didn't do this. And that's why a lot of clients, when they ask me, so I'm really just sucking in, I don't like the terminology sucking in, because to me, sucking in does this. And I don't want you holding your breath. I don't want you raising your shoulders. I don't want you altering the way you hold yourself naturally. Other than this is definitely going to improve your posture. We're going to alter that way. But I don't want you tensing, tightening, holding your breath, affecting your breathing. I want you to picture 3 strings attached from your spine to those areas. There's a string from here to here, a string starting here to here, and a string starting here to here. Picture those 3 strings being pulled back. So nothing is being affected other than those 3 strings are being pulled back to take your stomach in a loose position and drawing it in all 3 areas. So the stomach goes from out to in without affecting anything else. Now, the other part of this that I would like you to think about is what I call wrapping your torso to cinch your waist. Now, this is definitely a little bit harder for a lot of people to envision. Even yesterday, I got a comment on Instagram asking me to give her some tips because the wrapping of the torso and cinching the waist was interesting to her, but she wasn't getting it. So this is what you should picture. Your transverse muscle, that's the deepest layer of your abdominals. It attaches on either side of your spine and it wraps around your body like a corset. So the stomach muscles that we're all used to thinking about are the recti. Those are the 6-pack muscles that you actually see when you get really, really toned. The transverse muscle, though, is your deepest layer of your abdominal muscles. When the torso is wrapped, when you cinch your waist, when you draw your stomach in, it's the transverse muscle that is working. So the best way that I can describe to engage the transverse muscle, to cinch your waist, put your hands here. Put them on either side of your spine. Drag your hands around as if you're trying to take your waist and make it as tiny as possible. Picture putting on a very old-fashioned corset to cinch here, to get it in. That's how I would describe wrapping the torso to cinch the waist. So it's not only draw upper, middle, lower abs up and in towards your spine. That's an essential part of it. But I also want you thinking wrapping your torso to cinch your waist. Now, right now it might feel like a lot of work and a lot of steps. I promise you with time, like for me, when I engage, it all just kind of happens all at once. When I wrap and pull and draw up and in, it just happens. My belly's out, I'm engaged. And I didn't think 1, 2, 3, wrap. I just engaged. So yes, in the beginning, it might sound like and feel like separate steps, but trust me, with time, with proper core engagement throughout your workouts, throughout daily life, it will become natural and really effortless to keep the core properly engaged. Part 4, what you need to stop doing that is making your core get weaker and is possibly causing any abdominal separation to get worse. Now, you might find this surprising, but there is a ton of stuff that you're doing in your everyday life that could be causing a diastasis to get worse and can be preventing you from strengthening your core despite your best efforts at exercise. So, what do you need to stop doing? You need to stop doing anything that is causing forceful pressure on your abdominal wall. Remember how a diastasis is created in the first place, right? Forward forceful pressure from inside to the abdominal wall. So any daily activities that are causing your stomach to push forward, bulging, that is causing the core to get weaker over time, and it's going to prevent you from improving a diastasis because you're continuously putting pressure there. So what are these instances? Lifting anything heavy, carrying a child, wearing a baby carrier, the way that you cough and sneeze, squeeze to go to the bathroom if you're constipated, the way you're getting into and out of bed or into a back-laying position at the gym on a mat or on a bench, the way you're putting on your pants or your shirt. Believe it or not, all of these times can be an opportunity to strengthen your core, or they could be an opportunity to prevent the core from getting stronger and could be increasing a diastasis. So let's fix that right now. You now know how to properly engage your core. You wrap your torso, you pull your entire stomach in. Watch me cough, for example, without proper core engagement. My belly's loose and I cough. You see how my stomach moves? Now my core is properly engaged. Torso's wrapped, upper, middle, lower abs are in. I'm not sucking in, just my stomach is engaged. And I cough just as powerfully as I did a second ago. No bulging, right? See the difference? Relaxed. Movement. Engaged, no movement. You have the strength in your transverse muscle to control the core while coughing, sneezing, opening a heavy window, pushing down a heavy window, pushing open a door, pulling open a heavy door, lifting a child. You have the strength in your transverse muscle to keep the core engaged. It's just a matter of remembering to do it and convincing yourself that it's important. This is something I cannot stress enough. You could pay a ton of money to whatever trainer you'd like, work so hard on your exercises, however many times a week you can fit in. If you are not avoiding the damaging things in your day, if you are not properly engaging your core when you do things that put forceful pressure on the abdominal wall, you're not going to see results. And this is where a lot of my clients struggled before coming to me. They're working out with the best trainers in the city, they think. They're going to the best classes, they think. But they're carrying their kids and doing crunches and sit-ups in ways that are preventing them from proper core engagement. If you can't keep your core properly engaged while doing something, it's only harming you. It's not helpful. So what do you need to do differently? You need to keep your core properly engaged when you do all of those things I just listed. Coughing, sneezing, squeezing for the bathroom, lifting anything heavy, taking groceries, unloading them from the trunk of your car, unloading dishes, putting them in the cabinet, putting the kids' laundry away. Anytime you are using your arms or legs, you are twisting, you are leaning, you are bending, your stomach naturally would hang out. Even a simple stretch like this, the tendency is to let the stomach droop. Proper core engagement. You can still stretch. You can still do a downward dog. You just need to keep the core properly engaged when you do it. Now, two things that put the most pressure on the abdominal wall in daily life are leaning straight back and sitting straight up. No matter how well you engage your core, for a lot of people, especially moms and pregnant women, it is literally impossible to keep the core properly engaged, meaning whatever separation you have, it's gone, right? Because when you engage the core properly, you're closing that separation. It's nearly impossible to keep that separation closed and go all the way back or sit all the way up. So what does that mean? It means we don't do that anymore. Going back to how I got down to back laying position to test myself for a separation, going to the side, that's what we're going to do. So a little bit more detail now that you know how to properly engage your core. You are going to wrap your torso to cinch the waist and pull upper, middle, lower abs into your spine. Keeping that core engagement, go to your side. Use your arms to lower yourself down and touch your head. Then, with core still engaged, rotate to your back. Now you're in back laying position. You could do whatever you want here, but core must remain engaged. Lifting the head and shoulders for crunches and sit-ups, you're not going to be able to keep the gap closed. That's why crunches and sit-ups have to be out. No more crunches and sit-ups. Stomach stays engaged, and then you can do exercises where a knee lifts or an arm raises, anything where you can keep the core properly engaged. But crunches and sit-ups, too much. You will not be able to keep it closed. That is not going to be safe for you. To get up from a back laying position, core is engaged, rotate to your side, use your arms to press yourself back up. So back laying position, getting into and out of it, those are two of the most essential things to remember. Proper core engagement, not going straight back and sitting straight up, especially if you're a new mom and the baby starts screaming in the middle of the night and you don't remember because you're exhausted to go to your side and press yourself up and you're going to jackknife straight up. Hopefully you're going to say, oh man, I wasn't supposed to do that. Or, oh shoot, Cheryl said not to do that. The more that happens, the more natural it's going to become to avoid getting straight up and straight back. And to be honest, the stronger your core gets, it's not going to feel comfortable or natural for you to do a movement that puts so much strain here. You will naturally at least pivot a little bit to one side, even if it's not exactly perfectly the way I showed you. Even if you pivot a little bit and push up from the shoulder, it's going to be better than coming straight up and straight back. Part 5. What I recommend you start doing immediately to start strengthening your core and improve a diastasis. Have a seat against a wall on the floor if that's comfortable for you. Sit cross-legged, or if that's not comfortable, just extend your legs straight out in front of you. What's most important is that your entire back, from your tailbone up to your shoulder blades, remain fully in contact, supported by the wall. Now, if this isn't comfortable, you can also sit on a chair, but try to get a chair that has like full back support. So right from shoulder blades down to tailbone are supported. We are going to do 3 very basic exercises in this position. The purpose of these exercises is to isolate your transverse muscle. It's to teach yourself how to engage the transverse without any other stuff going on, not everyday life, not other complicated movements and exercises. You're sitting still. All you're focusing on is the transverse, just drawing in. So admittedly, these are not the most exciting exercises. You'll get there, I guarantee you. But to get there safely, you need to learn how to strengthen the core in the deepest layer, that transverse muscle first. All right, so first variation here. I want you to properly engage your core like we've gone over. Torso's wrapped, upper, middle, lower abs all pull in. I want you to pull in as far as you possibly can without holding your breath, without raising your shoulders. I want you to count out loud to 30, and then we're going to do 15 pulses, pulling back as far as you can towards the wall and releasing as little as possible each time. All right, so variation number 1, 30 count, hold, 15 pulses. Here we go. Pull in as far as you can. Upper, middle, lower abs, up and in, torso's wrapped. Count out loud to 30 so I know you're not holding your breath. 1, 2, 3, shoulders relaxed. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Don't release. 15 pulses. Pull in as far as you can. Tiny release. Say the number at the back. Pull in even further. 1, teeny release. Push yourself. 2, tiny release. 3, little release. 4, little release. 5, little release. Shoulders stay down. 6, little release. 7, little release. 8, little release. Make sure everything's coming in. 9, little release. 10, tiny release. Last 5. 1, teeny release. 2, teeny release. 3, everything pulling in. 4, teeny release. And 5, and breathe. Now, if you feel this in the back and not in the front, you're actually doing this right. Remember, transverse muscle attaches on either side of the spine. So it's very common and natural to feel it back here. Keep the core engaged some and stretch forward to release any tension in the back. Now, a couple things with the 30 count hold and 15 pulses. If you feel like you're getting out of breath, it just means you're counting too quickly. So just slow down your counting. The other thing with that exercise, make sure that you are not tensing and tightening and affecting your breathing or raising your shoulders. The amount that you're able to pull in right now, when I say pull in as far as you can, if you do these exercises, even for a week, you're going to be able to pull in even further. So when I say pull in as far as you can, you're pulling in as far as you can for today. And that means you're pulling in as far as you can without holding your breath and without raising your shoulders, without arching your back away from the wall, without letting anything push forward. You're pulling in as far as you can, keeping proper alignment. Again, that's going to change. The more you do the exercises and incorporate the techniques into everyday life, the further you'll be able to pull in. All right, so that was variation number 1. Second variation we're going to do is a 10 count hold as far back as you can, and then a tiny release, and you're going to pull back in again for 10 counts and a tiny release. All right, let's go. Sit up nice and tall, tailbone up to shoulder blades are supported, upper, middle, lower abs come in, torso's wrapped. Pull in as far as you can without affecting your posture. Count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All in. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Tiny release. Pull back in. 1, 2, 3, 4. As far as you can. 5. Push yourself. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Tiny release, pull back in. 1, 2. If my hands were covering your stomach, I would barely feel you releasing at the release. It's that small. Let's say that's 7, 8, 9, 10. Tiny release, big pull, all the way in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's do 2 more. Tiny release, big pull, upper, middle, lower. 1, 2, stay down. 3, 4, hold back against the wall. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last one, tiny release, really push yourself, pull back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Again, release, stomach is somewhat engaged, and reach forward. Now that brings up an important point. When we're doing these exercises, I'm talking about pulling all the way in as far as you can. When I'm telling you to stretch after, I'm telling you to pull in somewhat. That is because it is not realistic to keep the core pulled in as far as we are when we're doing a real exercise. It's not realistic to ask you to try to maintain that level of core engagement when you go about your daily life, when you just are stretching, when you're pushing a stroller on a flat surface, when you're walking to work or sitting in a car. It's not necessary to be pulled in all the way as far as you can, but it's also no good to let the stomach just kind of hang. So you're going to quickly discover for yourself, what's that halfway mark? Where am I working my hardest for purposes of exercise time? And where am I somewhat engaged? I'm not letting my belly just like hang there and have bad posture and my stomach's just bleh. So that midway point, that's where you should be going forward. Normal life, not working out, not something super strenuous. Pushing a double stroller up a hill, doing a hard workout. Doing burpees, push-ups. That's when you need to be pulled all the way up and in like we are right now. But otherwise, some engagement is what you should be thinking about. All right, so that was our second variation. The third variation we're going to do, our final variation, is it's going to be a little bit hard to see in this video. So just try to understand what I'm asking you to do. You're going to pull in as far as you can, and immediately you're going to release. So let's picture this is my stomach. I pulled in as far as I could. I'm going to take 5 counts to release the slightest bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I barely moved, and then I pull back in. So it's not letting the stomach go from full. So let's say I start released, right? Then I pull in as far as I can. I'm not counting to 5 to let my stomach go all the way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not doing that. I'm all the way in, and for 5 counts, I'm going to release the slightest bit possible. You'll barely see me move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull back in. So see, you could barely see me releasing, but when I pull back in, you realize I actually did release a little bit. So we're working the muscle in what we call the negative. You are taking 5 counts to release the smallest bit possible, never to full release position. All right, sit up tall, tailbone up to shoulder blades are supported, torso wrapped, upper middle lower abs pull up and in far as you can. 5 counts, smallest release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull back in all the way. Teeny release now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way in. 1, 2, tiny release. 3, 4, 5, one more. All the way in, tiny release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax, engage some, and stretch forward. With that exercise, your 5 count release is not 1, 2, 3. It's a smooth release. You're not pausing at each count. You're just taking 5 counts to release a really small amount. All right, so those are the 3 basic foundation exercises that I think are most important to get you practicing the holding technique and the pulsing technique and the slow release technique. I have found that those 3 techniques will help you strengthen your core, develop the endurance in the deep core muscles that will give you the strength to keep the core engaged for more complicated daily life activities and more complicated exercises. So am I suggesting that you only sit against a wall and do these very basic holds, pulses, and slow releases? Absolutely not. But for now, to start, that is where it needs to begin. That is the very bottom layer of proper core strengthening. It gets way more exciting, I promise you. And I want you to feel free to be creative with this. You practice 3 techniques: holding, pulsing, and slow releases. Take those 3 concepts and incorporate them into daily life. Make brushing your teeth in the morning a time to just practice holding. Make brushing your teeth at night a time to practice the pulses. Make driving in the car every time you get to a stoplight, you take that stoplight to practice the slow release that we did third. Incorporate those techniques however you want. But if you're looking for a strict workout plan from me, I would say try for twice a day, morning and night, if possible. Do each of those exercises that we went over 5 times. If you get to do it once a day, amazing. If you get to do it a few times a week, so much better than nothing, especially if, and this is what matters the most, you are avoiding the damaging activities and exercises that we went over. If you're avoiding the harmful stuff and incorporating proper core engagement in daily life, that's already a great core workout. You're already doing an amazing job with proper core strengthening. Whatever exercises you can add in sitting against a wall is the bonus. So all of that together is going to get you to the next level, which is functional core strengthening. Taking that endurance that you've developed in the muscles, maintaining proper core engagement while doing exercises that mimic real life. Rotating, twisting, bending, lifting, all the fun stuff that is involved in the more complicated exercises. But first, this is the stuff that you need to be able to do it safely. Well, I hope that you learned a lot from this video. If you did, I hope you'll click subscribe below and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, there is a link in the description to this video. If you click on that link, you'll subscribe to my newsletter. I send out lots of helpful tips, workouts, deals on training, on classes, on my online programs, and that'll be a great way for us to stay in touch. I would love it if you would comment below. Please let me know, what did you find most useful? What was most helpful? What's one thing that is already stuck in your head? Even if it's just right now, you're not letting your belly hang out. You've got some proper core engagement going. If you could tell me what was most helpful in this video, I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.